So I've been playing around a little bit with OpenAI and GPT-3 inside of Make. And in this video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to connect QuickBooks Online data to GPT-3 and see what sort of information we can extract out of there and what kind of insights we can extract out of there, which opens up the doors to a whole bunch of different use cases, which I think are really cool. I'm going to walk you through it step by step. I'm probably going to fumble through it just like that last sentence a little bit, so bear with me. But I'm going to show you exactly how to do this. So first thing we have to do is create a QuickBooks module inside of Make. And then what we're going to do is scroll all the way to the bottom, and we're going to make an API call, because we're going to make a custom API call. We're going to pull the P&L from a demo company that I've got. So I'm going to go ahead and connect that. Okay, so our demo account is connected, and in this URL, what we're going to do is put a relative reference, which is reports/profit and loss. So that's going to pull a P&L. And then under query string, minor version 65. Don't ask me why. That's just what I use in my other scenarios. So whatever is what it is. Accounting method is going to be cash. And then, so this is the query string. So this basically is telling QuickBooks, like, here's what we're going to pull and here's the criteria that we're going to pull it for. And then we want a start date, so this is going to be the period. And we want 2020 and October and as the start date, and their end date is going to be 2020 12/31. And the reason why I'm using those dates basically is just because I know that there's data inside of that demo company, so I know that we'll pull something and I won't look completely stupid. And then we want to summarize, I think it's column. Could be columns, we'll find out. Summarize column by, and it's going to be month. So basically it's going to pull a 3-month P&L. It's going to show the columns as months, or the months as columns rather. All right, so we can go ahead and let's see if that works. Cool. All right, so the body, if we go in here and look at the columns, it should show several columns. One is account, one is money, money. Nope. So, okay. So we got October as a column, November as a column, and December as a column. Perfect. That's what we want. And if I open this up, I bet you it's total. Total. There we go. Cool. So that worked. All right. So then we're going to feed it to OpenAI. And what we want is create a completion. So we're basically going to feed it something, and it's going to feed us back something. So we'll go ahead and connect that. I already have, I'm going to move my fat head out of the way. So I already have an OpenAI connection, and it's fairly simple to set up. So if you've been playing with ChatGPT at all, you've already got an account with OpenAI, so that's cool. So if you go in here, and this is what the screen is going to look like when you first create the connection inside of Make for your OpenAI account. Basically, if you just copy that URL and go to it, you'll get your API key. It's super straightforward. And then for your organization ID, if you just copy that URL, go to it, you fetch it the same way, and basically just copy paste in there. But I've already got the connection set up, so we're good. Now for model, we're going to do DaVinci 003. So text DaVinci 003. Why are we doing DaVinci 003? Because it's the only one that I know, and I'm fairly certain that it works, and I don't know what all the other ones in here do. So whatever, there's that. We're just going to go with it. And then our prompt, so this is what we're going to give it. So we're going to give it all the QuickBooks data. So let's just say we want the body there, but then we need to tell GPT-3 to do something with it. So let's just say that we want, what is total income in November for the following QuickBooks Online data. And let's just see what it gives us. It's going to go ahead and run it. Makes the API call, it feeds it to GPT-3, and what we get back is basically blank. Payment from Jason. I don't even know what that means. So that's kind of wonky, right? In reality, the data that we fed to GPT-3 looks like this. It's a 3-month P&L, and the November, it should have been 8/62/9/30. So how do we handle this? Well, the output from QuickBooks API calls, I mean, these are collections. This isn't necessarily JSON data. So JSON is basically a structured way to deal with data. I don't really know how else to explain it because I'm not a developer or anything like that, but it's very, very structured. So what we can do is we can add a JSON module in between QuickBooks and GPT-3. Go ahead and align that. And basically the only, what we're going to, nope, I don't want that. Told you. You can watch me struggle through this. Aggregator. I think it's aggregate the JSON. And the data structure. Nope, I don't think I want that either. Transform to JSON. That's what I want. Transform to JSON. So it's going to transform an object. Our object is going to be the body from QuickBooks. And then it's just going to turn all of that data. So we've got column labels, we've got row labels, we've got the actual data. It's going to convert that into JSON data. So go ahead and run this. We're not going to pay any attention to what GPT is showing right now, but you'll see there's a JSON string now. It's fairly structured, right? So we've got our headers, and then we've got all of our column titles, our column types. It's fairly structured. So what happens if we just remove that and feed GPT-3 the JSON string as opposed to feeding it like the collections and the weird unstructured data that QuickBooks feeds us? And so what we get is 862,930. Cool, 862,930. So that's the expected result that we would get. That's interesting unto itself. But who cares? Now, if we feed it a question, and here's a question. So gross margin percentage is gross margin divided by total income based on this JSON data of the profit and loss report from QuickBooks Online API. What is the gross margin percentage in October expressed as a percentage? It's a question, right? And so we're not feeding the gross margin percentage to GPT-3. We're telling it what gross margin percentage is, and we're just telling it to calculate it. So what happens when we do that? We get back a response, and it says gross margin percentage in October was 66.63%. Is that right? I don't know. So if we go in here, percentage of income, gross margin percentage in October, 73.64%. So we're definitely a little bit off, for sure. 66.63%. Now let's take a look at what we were feeding it. So gross margin by total income. So let's play with this a little bit more. So what happens if we say, what is the gross margin in October based on the following JSON data from the QuickBooks Online API? And then the data is there. So let's say it runs, and 353,838. 353,838. So that is this number rounded. Okay, cool. So that's the right number. And then what happens if we say, what is the gross margin? Then what is that amount divided by the total income, which will then give us the gross margin percentage. And then there's the data. So run it again. And what is our answer? Gross margin 353, 838.63. And then it cuts off. Okay. So if we go back in here, and then the max tokens that we want is, I think, 55, which basically just tells GPT-3 how long of a string it can return. So as you saw, it got cut off there. And if we open it back up after we rerun it, 353, 838, so that's the right number. And then gross margin percentage of 73.39. And that is pretty close, probably a rounding error, certainly close enough for government work. So, cool. Now, what we did was we basically just ran a P&L, we fed it to GPT-3, and then we told it, we gave it some fairly explicit directions. You can certainly play with this. And then it gave us some analysis back. That analysis wasn't baked into the data that we gave it. We basically just gave it instructions on how to do that analysis, kind of, sort of, right? So is this the end-all be-all? No. Is it cool? Yeah. Are there a ton of different use cases for this? I think so. Here's a couple. One, you can do variance analysis and then automate that in some sort of way. If you think about it, based on this scenario, if we added another module out here, it could be a Slack module, it could be a Teams module, it could be an email module. You could send these automated analyses out to either your team, like, hey, go take a look at this because the bank balance fell below, whatever, or the margin is a little bit lower than we expected. Go take a look at this, that sort of thing. So you can feed it to any sort of communication channel. There's a lot of opportunity there. We can do variance analysis, so we can ask that same question that I just asked of the model. For 1 month, we can do that month over month. So what is the difference? Taking that a step further, if we run custom API calls and we feed it individual transactions or a transaction list for a specific account for a specific month, and then we ask for an analysis like, hey, you know, what is driving this variance? We might be able to get a response back. I haven't tried it. It's a cool use case. We could even do this for quality control. So think about using or doing an API call for a transaction list, and then in that far right column, you know, you can use the clear column to show if something's reconciled or cleared. Return all the transactions that aren't reconciled or cleared. Taking that a step further, send that to Carbon and have a particular team member go and clear a task or work on a task to clean up QBO, something like that. There's a ton of different use cases. I think that the world is our oyster for this. I definitely think that it's got its limitations. We can only pass so many characters, which is why you saw me do 3 months. I tried it for 12, doesn't work. It's just too long. But this is also in beta, so when it comes out and it's fully baked, maybe we'll be able to pass longer text like we can in ChatGPT. Don't know. I think there's a lot of opportunity here. This is definitely cool. Hopefully this was helpful, and hopefully it helps to jog some ideas that you may have. I'd love to know, like, how are you using this, or how are you thinking about using this in your firm? So that's it. Hope you enjoyed it. See ya.